With Pecco Bagnaia set to lose his Ducati work seat to Pedro Acosta in 2027, he had a choice to make, and it seems he's made a choice that might surprise people. Simon discovered this morning that Pecco Bagnaia has spurned a big money Yamaha offer and is set to commit to Aprilia. We broke this news on the race website in the middle of the European night going into Saturday morning. Here's Simon reporting from the Bury-Ram paddock with the full story.
So even before we had bikes on track this morning for the start of MotoGP's pre-season testing, I'd already bumped into someone in the paddock who'd come looking for me to tell me that they had a bit of news for me, that they'd heard that yesterday Pecco Bagnaia had at least basically come close to signing for Aprilia, even if the deal wasn't yet completely done, that they'd renegotiated after a counter offer from Yamaha and then a counter offer from Bagnaia's original position back from Aprilia. That looks like it's clinched the deal, looks like it's got it over the line, and that fairly soon we're going to be hearing that he's going to be joining Marco Bezzecchi as their second factory rider for next year, meaning the Italian factory, as well as creating an absolute dream team of Italian talent, one that I'm sure they're absolutely going to be willing to flex this year, given that some of the comments that we saw at the end of last year from people like Max Biaggi within that Aprilia camp about Ducati being German-owned and now likely to have two Spanish riders. This combination of Bezzecchi, Bagnaia, an Italian-owned, Italian-run team headed by Massimo Rivola, it's something of a dream team for them. It also means that they're going to be probably the first factory to lock in their factory lineup for next season for the big road changes before everyone else, which I'm sure will make life a little bit easier for Massimo Rivola going forward. But if this morning's testing's anything to go by, it's also going to make life easier for Pecco Bagnaia because he's currently the fastest guy on track. He's cruising because that pressure's off. It doesn't matter anymore the way that it maybe did even a few weeks ago, what results he brings this year, because he knows now he's not staying at Ducati, so he's no longer fighting for that seat that's been taken by Pedro Acosta. So instead, we're seeing him looking freer, more relaxed, fast on the bike again, which combined with the fact that this year's Ducati is already a significant improvement on last year's anyway, the bike that caused him so many problems, it means that really this is a dream scenario for him, even if it does mean that he's stepping out of that Ducati fold that I think he'd probably hoped, and that they had hoped too, let's be honest, that he would stay in for quite a while. Why Aprilia? Why not Yamaha? Because we know that Yamaha offer was on the table too. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. If he went to Yamaha, he would earn a lot more money. I mean, we know that the relative salaries of the Japanese manufacturers to the European manufacturers mean that was pretty much a given. But he would also be joining a bike that's performance-wise a lot further back than where the Aprilia is. You have to think that Pecco Bagnaia looks at the current Aprilia and thinks, I could jump on that bike right now and win races and maybe even fight for a championship on it. Obviously, Marc Marquez is there on a factory Ducati, but it's a factory Ducati that has shown a little bit of weakness recently. And, every rider thinks that they have what it takes to win. So you got to think that he's pretty pleased with the level of the Aprilia right now and is definitely hoping that carries forward into next season and those big regulation changes as well. I think actually it's a bit of a testament to Bagnaia that he's looking at a competitive Aprilia that's going to be substantially less paid, and we're probably talking like maybe half the salary, maybe a third of the salary. That's the financial incentives difference here. So a lot less money to try and be competitive again. And I think that's because last year hurt him so much. That year of just absolute torrid time trying to find performance from the factory bike over and over again, and it delivering 2 or 3 times in the course of the season. I think that hurt him in a way that has motivated him to take the option for 27. That's going to mean that he's fast and happy rather than well paid and working to develop a bike that's obviously got loads of potential because it's Yamaha, and you always presume that the Japanese factories have lots of potential, but that is a long way away from being the final product right now. I personally, I think it's a good deal. I think that he's landed on his feet here, and I've said for quite some time, I've written quite a few opinion pieces for the website saying that I think that the combination of him, Bezzecchi, who we know is one of his best mates in the whole world, never mind in the paddock, and with Massimo Rivola, the kind of calm, cool, control over the top of this thing, this guy that has managed a very difficult Jorge Martin situation very well. A guy who has put his arm around Marco Bezzecchi from the end of a difficult time at Ducati into probably the second best rider in MotoGP right now in terms of bike and rider combination, and the guy who refused to give up on Raul Fernandez during a really tough time and eventually saw him through to becoming Aprilia's first satellite race winner. Now, all of those are testament to Rivola and the package that he puts together and puts around his riders. I think that from everything we've seen from Bagnaia, that's something that he's going to react very well to. And it's something that potentially even you could say is missing a little bit right now from Ducati. So all in all, this is an excellent move. This is probably the most excited I've been about any of these preseason moves so far that we've kind of heard rumors of, and looking forward to finding out the next few days that our story is a confirmed thing and that the news is official.
Val, since then, we've heard from Marco Bezzecchi about the prospect of Pecco Bagnaia joining him, and his answer was no comment, but he winked at Simon while saying that. How do you think this pairing is going to work? Obviously, they're great friends, but Bagnaia will be going to a team which Bez is very, very much at home by the time he gets there.
Yeah, it's always interesting when, there's a pre-existing strong relationship between the two future teammates, and you always wonder how that's going to survive basically against the pressures of riding, especially if you're riding for a front-running team, which both of them will hope Aprilia will be. So ultimately, both of them, the deal Bezzecchi signed and the deal we believe Bagnaia is signing, they will both sign with the ambition of going for the Riders' Championship, of which, only one per year. But I think the characters involved here and the strength of the pre-existing relationship, they're probably going to be okay. Like it would be better for the show to say, ooh, drama between the two, etc., that kind of thing. But Bagnaia has been a good teammate by all accounts through his time in MotoGP. He is going to accept, I think, pretty easily whatever result comes against Bezzecchi. He, I think, has this Ducati experience versus Marc Marquez that he's reflected on and that he's potentially changed a little bit from, but even at sort of the doldrums of his time at Ducati last year, there wasn't necessarily any inter-team tension. So the risk of it being bad at any point, I think it's only, if they collide on track, and that was anyway possible when they were riding Ducati Aprilia out front. So that doesn't really change much. In MotoGP, we talk teammates, but very often it's, totally separate work, but also very often it's riders who are able to collaborate and not take it too personally, whatever happens. It's good. It's a really, it's a fun synergy. It's two riders with big upside, and it's two riders who get on very well. And I think that will help. That'll just help the atmosphere. Now, Bezzecchi is the chosen one a little bit right now. I don't know that he needs to be the chosen one definitively in the team to succeed. I don't know that there's going to be like an attention deficit for one or for the other. That one we'll have to see, but I think it's going to work with these two personalities.
You mentioned Bagnaia's doldrums against Marquez, and that is worst points of 2025. Things were very, very bad performance-wise. But, we shouldn't forget, this is a guy who has won 2 world championships, who's come close to 2 more world championships, and he made Ducati his own, having made a slightly unpromising start to his MotoGP career in its satellite ranks. So overall, the Bagnaia-Ducati story, okay, it's ending with him effectively being squeezed out of his own team, but it's mostly a successful one. Aprilia is getting a decent signing here.
It's an outrageously successful, and I don't think the word mostly applies here. It is a phenomenal success. It is absolutely incredible. And if you told everybody involved at the start of 2019, or specifically at the end of 2019, after Pecco Bagnaia's rather indifferent first season in the MotoGP, that hey, this is going to yield 2 championships before he is squeezed out for the next big thing from the Moto3, Moto2 world champion. Pecco Bagnaia and Ducati would probably say, yeah, absolutely, sign us up. That sounds incredible. And they're navigating this as well as could be reasonably expected. Like, it's not even been ugly so far, and we'll see how the season goes. But it's it's all seemed very, very, very professional up to this point, in that the two parties have sort of found themselves in a situation where both feel okay about moving on, and the implicit understanding that maybe Ducati had to act on the opportunity that it had in Pedro Acosta. We know that Ducati believed in Bagnaia before almost anybody else did, in the sense that Ducati committed to him before he was Moto2 champion, or before he even started his Moto2 title winning campaign. Ducati committed to him as its next factory rider while he still hadn't accomplished really anything in MotoGP across 2019, and then an improved but very, very inconsistent 2020. And then Bagnaia immediately proved Ducati right by right away from basically race 1, race 2, certainly becoming the focal point of that factory team versus teammate Jack Miller. Maybe a true supernova rider maybe wins 4 of those titles instead of 2, but a lesser rider wins 0. And this is a monumental success. They can both look back and be proud. And these separations are also part of the sporting history. There is also, something beautiful in that, in a way, something very interesting to all of us. Everything comes to an end. And I'm I'm more interested in this storyline than I would be in just Bagnaia continuing at Ducati for 6, 8, 10 years. Maybe that's sacrilege to say, but that's how I feel.